Welcome to DCF Investigations. There are cases that haunt investigators because of the evidence found, the brutal nature of the crime, or the clear presence of a monster in the shadows. But there is another category of mystery that haunts us for a different reason. These are the cases where the pieces do not fit, where the logic of human behavior seems to fracture, and where the silence left behind is louder than any scream. We are traveling back to the turn of the millennium, to a small, quiet town in North Carolina, to examine a disappearance that defies every instinct of parenting, psychology, and survival. It involves a stormy night, a 9-year-old girl who was terrified of the dark, and a journey into the unknown that has kept a family waiting for over 2 decades. This is the story of Asha Degree. To understand the gravity of this case, we must first immerse ourselves in the atmosphere of Shelby, North Carolina, in the year 2000. This was not a bustling metropolis where anonymity was easy to come by. Shelby was, and remains, a tight-knit community. The kind of place situated in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains where neighbors knew each other's schedules and Sunday church service was a non-negotiable anchor of social life. It was a time before the ubiquity of smartphones and constant digital surveillance. The internet was present, but it was dial-up, stationary, and largely absent from the homes of working-class families like the Degrees. Harold and Aquila Degree had built a life that was insulated, safe, and structured. They were loving, protective parents who centered their world around their 2 children, 9-year-old Asha and her 10-year-old brother, O'Brien. By all accounts, the Degree household was a fortress of routine and affection. They did not own a computer. The children were not allowed to watch unsupervised television or roam the streets alone. This context is critical because it dismantles the idea that Asha could have been easily groomed by an online predator, a common theory in modern disappearances. In the Degree house, the outside world was kept at a distance. Asha herself was described by everyone who knew her as a shy, cautious, and intelligent child. She was a 4th grader at Falston Elementary School, an academic overachiever who loved to read and hated to break the rules. But perhaps the most significant detail about Asha's personality, the one that keeps investigators awake at night, is her fear. Asha Degree was terrified of the dark. She was afraid of dogs. She was afraid of storms. She was a child who would not step out onto her own front porch at night without a parent. This psychological profile makes the events of February 14th, 2000 almost impossible to comprehend. The timeline begins on the weekend leading up to Valentine's Day. It was a normal Saturday, February 12th. Both Asha and O'Brien were involved in youth basketball. Asha was a spirited player, but during her game that Saturday, she fouled out. For a child who prided herself on perfection and following the rules, this was a devastating blow. She sat on the bench and cried. Her parents, supportive as always, reassured her that it was just a game, that it happened to everyone. By the time they went home, she seemed to have recovered. She watched her brother's game, and the family returned to their routine. That Saturday night, the children stayed up late with their cousins at a family sleepover, laughing, dancing, and acting like normal children. There was no sign of distress, no secret phone calls, no brooding silence. Sunday, February 13th, followed the same pattern. The family went to church, they ate a family meal, and the children went to bed. However, the atmosphere in Shelby was shifting. A massive storm system was rolling in, bringing heavy wind and freezing rain. It was the kind of night that drives people deeper into their homes, locking doors against the cold, wet darkness. Around 9:12 p.m. on Sunday night, a car accident nearby knocked out power to the neighborhood. The Degree house went dark. Asha Degree, ever the protective mother, lit candles and gathered the children. When the power returned shortly after, she sent Asha and O'Brien to bed. The children shared a room, a detail that is vital to the timeline. Harold Degree, who worked the second shift, came home around 12:30 a.m. He checked on his children, as he always did. He saw both Asha and O'Brien asleep in their beds. The house was calm. The storm raged outside, but inside, everything was secure. Harold stayed up for a while watching television before deciding to turn in. At roughly 2:30 a.m., he checked the room one last time. He saw Asha sleeping in her bed. He saw her white nightgown. He saw the peaceful rise and fall of her breathing. Satisfied, he went to sleep. This is the last confirmed sighting of Asha Degree by her family. Sometime between 2:30 a.m. and 6:30 a.m., in the midst of a freezing rainstorm, 9-year-old Asha Degree got out of bed. We know she packed a bag. She took her book bag, a black and beige tote, and filled it with a strange assortment of items. She packed her everyday clothes, consisting of a pair of jeans and a white shirt with a teddy bear graphic. She packed her basketball uniform. She grabbed a few personal items. The quietness of her departure is chilling. Her brother, O'Brien, recalls hearing the bed squeak. He woke up briefly and saw Asha moving around the room. In his sleepy haze, he assumed she was just getting up to use the bathroom or perhaps changing positions. He rolled over and went back to sleep, never imagining that his sister was preparing to walk out of his life. Asha unlocked the door and stepped out into the pitch-black night. It was pouring rain. The wind was howling. The temperature was hovering near freezing. Without a coat, wearing only a long-sleeved white shirt and white pants, she began to walk. At 5:45 a.m., the alarm clock in the parents' room buzzed. Asha got up immediately to draw a bath for the children, a morning ritual to get them ready for school. She walked into their room and called their names. O'Brien stirred, but Asha's bed was empty. Asha wasn't immediately panicked. She assumed Asha had woken up early and was perhaps in the bathroom or the living room. She checked the bathroom. It was empty. She checked the kitchen, the living room, the closets. The house was silent. Panic began to set in, a cold grip on her heart. She woke Harold, screaming that Asha was gone. Harold, disoriented and terrified, jumped out of bed. They checked under the beds, behind the furniture, even outside in the family cars. Nothing. Asha opened the front door and looked out into the gray, wet morning. The street was empty. The rain was still falling. At 6:30 a.m., she dialed 911. The desperation in her voice is something that no parent should ever have to express. Police arrived quickly. The search began immediately, with neighbors, family, and law enforcement combing the area. But it was what happened on the highway that turned this missing person case into a baffling mystery. Highway 18 runs near the Degree home. It is a long, dark stretch of road, particularly desolate in the early morning hours. As news of the disappearance broke, reports began to filter in from motorists who had been on the road that night. 2 separate truck drivers came forward with information that seemed hallucinatory. They reported seeing a young girl walking south on Highway 18 between 3:45 a.m. and 4:15 a.m. She was walking along the shoulder, battered by the wind and rain. One trucker, concerned by the sight of a child in a white outfit walking alone in a storm, turned his rig around to help. He circled back, shining his headlights onto the side of the road. When the light hit her, the girl didn't wave for help. She didn't stop. Instead, she panicked. She left the road and sprinted into the woods, disappearing into the darkness. This detail is crucial and agonizing. Asha was alive at 4 a.m. She was walking voluntarily away from her home, and when help approached, she ran away from it. This behavior suggests she was on a mission, or she was afraid of being caught. But it completely contradicts the profile of the timid girl who feared the dark. What compelled her to walk down that highway? Was she meeting someone? Was she running toward something? Or away from something? The search intensified. Police dogs were brought in, but the heavy rain had washed away most of the scent trails. However, the dogs did pick up her scent at the end of the driveway and tracked it to the highway, confirming the trucker's accounts. She had walked. She hadn't been snatched from her bedroom. She had left on her own 2 feet. 3 days into the search, a small breakthrough occurred. In a shed belonging to a business called Turner's Upholstery, located just off Highway 18 near where she was last seen running into the woods, items were found. Inside the doorway of the shed, searchers found a Mickey Mouse hair bow, a green marker, and pencil casings. Her parents confirmed these items belonged to Asha. The discovery of the items in the shed suggested that Asha had sought shelter from the storm. It painted a heartbreaking picture of a cold, wet 9-year-old girl huddling in a strange shed in the middle of the night. But the trail went cold there. There were no footprints leading away, no other clues. It was as if she had evaporated after leaving the shed. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. The community of Shelby held vigils. The Degree family appeared on national television, including the Oprah Winfrey Show and America's Most Wanted, pleading for their daughter's return. They maintained Asha's room exactly as she had left it, a shrine to a life interrupted. Then, 18 months later, a discovery was made that shifted the entire scope of the investigation. On August 3, 2001, a construction worker was clearing land in Burke County, nearly 26 miles away from where Asha was last seen. While digging, he unearthed a black plastic trash bag. Curious, he opened it. Inside, he found another bag, and inside that, a book bag. It was Asha's backpack. The location of the bag was disturbing. It wasn't just tossed on the side of the road. It was double-bagged and buried, implying a deliberate effort to conceal it. The distance, 26 miles, meant that Asha could not have walked there. Someone had taken her, or at least taken her bag, to that location. This discovery reclassified the case from a runaway situation to a probable abduction and homicide. The contents of the bag were analyzed thoroughly, and they only deepened the mystery. Inside was the Dr. Chibi Seuss book, McElligot's Pool, which had been checked out from the Asha's school library. There was also a New Kids on the Block concert t-shirt. This shirt baffled the family. Asha was not a fan of the band, and the shirt did not belong to her. Where did it come from? Was it given to her by the person she met? Was it a clue left by the perpetrator? Despite this massive lead, the bag did not yield the DNA evidence investigators hoped for. The exposure to the elements and the time that had passed had degraded much of the forensic potential. The case began to stall again, entering a long, painful period of cold silence. Over the years, investigators have worked tirelessly, chasing thousands of leads. We must look at the theories that have emerged, dissecting them with the information we have. The first theory is the runaway theory. This posits that Asha, upset over the basketball game or some unknown domestic stress, decided to leave. Proponents of this theory point to the packed bag and the fact that she left the house without force. However, this theory crumbles under scrutiny. Asha was 9. She had no money, no plan, and a deep fear of the dark. The weather was atrocious. While children do run away, they rarely do so in freezing rainstorms at 3 a.m., and they usually don't get very far without returning or being found. The idea that she would maintain a resolve to walk miles in the rain along a highway is inconsistent with her psychological profile. The second theory is grooming. This suggests that someone, a trusted adult, a family friend, or someone from church or school, had been secretly communicating with Asha. This person could have convinced her to meet them that night, perhaps promising her an adventure or surprise. This explains why she would brave the dark. She thought she was going to safety. It explains why she packed a bag. She thought she was going on a trip. It also explains why she ran from the trucker. She was instructed not to talk to strangers, or she was waiting for a specific vehicle. But who? The police have interviewed nearly everyone in the Degree's orbit. No evidence of a secret friendship or inappropriate relationship has ever been found. Remember, there was no internet access. The grooming would have had to happen face to face, under the watchful eyes of her strict parents. The third theory is the crime of opportunity. In this scenario, Asha did run away for a minor reason, intending to perhaps just walk down the road and come back. But she became disoriented or lost. While walking on Highway 18, a predator happened to drive by, saw a vulnerable child, and snatched her. This theory aligns with the trucker's sightings and the eventual discovery of the bag miles away. It suggests the perpetrator was a stranger, making the crime incredibly difficult to solve because there are no pre-existing connections to trace. In 2016, the FBI announced a new lead. They revealed that they were looking for a specific vehicle, a distinctive early 1970s Lincoln Mark IV, a Ford Thunderbird, dark green in color, with rust around the wheel wells. A tipster had come forward claiming to have seen Asha getting into such a vehicle on the night of her disappearance. This was a massive development. It gave the public a concrete image to look for. For years, the green car has been the focal point of the investigation. We must also discuss the heartache of the Degree family. For over 2 decades, Harold and Equita have lived in the same house, keeping the same phone number, praying that one day Asha will call. They hold an annual walk to keep her memory alive. Their resilience is both inspiring and heartbreaking. They have never given up hope that Asha is still alive, somewhere, perhaps living a life with no memory of her past or held against her will. While statistics in these cases are grim, the not knowing is a torture that has no end. But the story is not just a relic of the past. In late 2024 and moving into 2025, there has been a surge of activity that has sent shockwaves through the true crime community. Law enforcement agencies, including the FBI and the local sheriff's office, executed search warrants on a property in Cleveland County. Investigators were seen towing away an older model green vehicle, a car that bears a striking resemblance to the description released years ago. While official details remain tightly sealed to protect the integrity of the ongoing investigation, reports indicate that this search was not a random fishing expedition. It was specific. It was targeted. Items of interest were reportedly removed from the property. The community of Shelby is once again holding its breath. Is this the break? Is the green car the key that unlocks the mystery of the last 25 years? We must be careful not to speculate too wildly. But the seizure of a vehicle matching the suspect description after so many years suggests that new information, or perhaps a refinement of old information, has bridged the gap. It brings us back to the items in the backpack. The New Kids on the Block shirt. The Dr. Seuss book. Were these items kept by someone on that property? Was the backpack buried in Burke County to divert attention away from Cleveland County? As we analyze the forensics of the time versus now, we realize that 2000 was a transitional era. DNA testing was available, but not as sensitive as it is today. Touch DNA, which can recover genetic material from a mere fingerprint, was not standard practice. The re-examination of the backpack, the clothes, and the items found in the shed using 2025 technology could be the catalyst for these new searches. If the perpetrator left even a microscopic amount of biological material on that bag, modern science could identify them. The disappearance of Asha Degree is a puzzle with pieces that seem to belong to different pictures. We have the innocent, fearful child. We have the bold, dangerous trek into the storm. We have the witness sightings that confirm she was there, and the physical evidence that confirms she was taken away. Think about the psychology of that night. Imagine the darkness of the highway. The sound of the rain hitting the pavement, the headlights of a truck cutting through the gloom, a little girl, small and fragile, freezing cold, making a decision to run into the woods rather than accept help. What was she thinking? Who was she waiting for? The tragedy of this case lies in the proximity of safety. She was seen. She was alive. She was within reach of help. And yet, the timing, the darkness, and the predatory nature of a stranger conspired to snatch her away. As we conclude this deep dive, we are left with the image of a house in Shelby, where a light is still left on. We are left with parents who have aged, but whose love remains frozen in time, waiting for a 9-year-old girl to walk back through the door. The investigation is active. The recent seizure of the green car proves that this case is not cold. It is burning hot. Someone in that community knows the truth. Someone knows why Asha walked out that night. Someone knows who was driving that car. And as technology advances and alliances shift, secrets become harder to keep. This is DCF Investigations. We tell these stories not just to entertain, but to remember. To keep the names of the missing in the present tense. To remind the world that Asha Degree is not just a file number. She is a daughter, a sister, and a child of Shelby who deserves to come home. We want to hear your thoughts. Do you believe the recent search of the property and the green car will finally solve this case? Or do you think the answer lies closer to home, buried in the secrets of a small town? What theory makes the most sense to you regarding why a child afraid of the dark would leave her home in a storm? Leave your analysis in the comments below. We read every single one. Until next time, keep the light on and never stop searching for the truth.